Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. With the Major 2 qualifiers officially back underway this week, we'll have to see how OpTic Texas get on after a questionable end to Major 1. There was lots to talk about. Dashy's playstyle, Shotzzy's playstyle, and how things might change when Major 2 comes around, especially now the game might be more SMG focused with the new patch update and especially Rio hardpoints coming into play. Pred though responds to the idea that SMGs should or should not take risk, making the point that lots of players and fans are pretty brain dead when it comes to analysing what players are making plays at certain times. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, a couple of interesting things here from Clay. Full map scrim versus FaZe. Played hackers all night. You know, absolutely got smoked to the gym. If I can survive that, we can survive anything. He also, though, played a scrim here against, well, the Los Angeles Thieves. It's quite rare that you see scrims kind of revealed and talked about on the timeline, but we have one example here. So this is an interesting situation. Here are the Los Angeles Thieves holding down this P3 hardpoint. The boys on the Ravens are trying to break into it. And you might not be able to tell what actually happened here. I thought this was Clay's POV initially, so I was like, what's he complaining about? Ghosty just killed him from the right-hand side while he can see him. No surprises there. But actually, the death you're looking for here is on the mini-map. And it's kind of small, because if I go full screen, you guys won't be able to see it. But really what we're looking at is this arrow over here, number 5, who is Clayster, who is all the way by that bus. And I'm guessing he might be tagged up a little bit as he tried to break into this point. Actually, this is not P3, is it? This is P5. But as Gwyn gets shot here and dies, the bullets from Ghosty's weapon somehow travel through the wall and kill Clay, because Ghosty is the one that kills Clay here. And he is all the way over the other side of the map through like 2 or 3 buildings. So I don't know if there's some sort of like weird wallbang spot there where for some reason those buildings are very wallbangable. But yeah, somehow Clay got shot by Ghosty from absolutely miles away, which is pretty rare to see, and I don't know if there's any actual utility for this in any sort of setting, unless there's some world in which you're in search and destroy, you're where Ghosty is, way back P3, your teammate gets in a gunfight over by the bus, and he says he's one shot, maybe you could go for a wallbang to try and finish off the kill, I don't know, that would be wild if it happens, but I kind of doubt it, to be honest. There's also this from Drazah, the 8 king, of course, right, this guy's been grinding 8s, he's been the number 1 in BPL, both times we've run that so far. But with ranked play coming through, lots of pros and, you know, players play that instead, even though it's not arguably better practice at all, right? People just enjoy playing ranked for now. Even though ranked isn't great, it's got its problems. It's always had its problems. I don't think it's the best system that we've had. I do kind of wish we'd go back to like just what it was like in World War II when there was a straight elo, because the game has an elo rating for you. It just doesn't tell you what it is, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, as Drazah says and Sasha says that, well, ranked is trash. I'll be there to revive them after the Super Bowl, he reckons. So yeah, maybe after the Super Bowl happens, the ranked play dies down a bit. It's time for the return of money 8s, or just regular 8s. I don't know if they're technically allowed to play for money anymore from the CDL side, but that was an interesting point for some time. Maps as well have been a big discussion point. The fact that some of these maps aren't in the game yet, I do wonder what Sledgehammer are trying to cook up there behind the scenes as well, whether they've got anything else on the horizon, because yeah, the fact that this is Modern Warfare 3 and maps like Seaside and other classics such as this, even pretty classic maps like this, and also, you know, this is Resistance, for example, as well, that were, you know, they played well back in the day. Modern Warfare 3 didn't really have much of a competitive scene when it was going on. It wasn't particularly established until Black Ops 2. They did have COD XP right at the start of the year, but yeah, Modern Warfare 3, there was a few competitive tournaments all around the world that year, but it wasn't on the same level that happened when Black Ops 2 arrived. Doesn't mean, though, there aren't decent maps in that game, and yeah, the current Mapset is not my favourite necessarily, but maybe changes to be made over time. Skidrow, of course, we know is full well gone from the Search and Destroy rotation, kind of interestingly, so still think it's a pretty good hardpoint map, though, and there's a few shots here, or a few spots here, that Shotzzy was talking about. I think a couple of these, to be fair, are pretty much day 1 spots, to be honest. I wouldn't exactly say day 1, but at least worthy of mention that Shotzzy kills this guy in the corner, lays down in the corner, and then doesn't really get spotted. I think people have used this spot for some time, but I thought it was at least worthy of mention, because if you guys haven't tried this out yet, give it a go, because Shotzzy definitely had some decent success with it right about here. He also found something interesting on Terminal as well. You guys have possibly seen this as well before anyway, but well, the OpTic admins were talking about it. Here he is under the plane, and if you jump up, kind of, you can put your head through the roof here to get information on, basically you can see through the plane, right, to see exactly what's going on, whether the guy's planting or not, which is another reason why possibly Terminal Search and Destroy could be time to go, you know what I mean? And I think many people would say that it probably should. And also because for some reason in ranked play, it seems like Terminal S&D comes up all the time. But then again, a lot of people would say HyDra should go. There's been lots of kind of questions over the last few days. Which teams voted for what in the map pool discussions over the last few days? Because I think there was some discussion going around that OpTic are actually quite keen for HyDra Search and Destroy to be gone. And I don't think HyDra is the greatest either. If anything, I would probably remove HyDra just because, I don't know, Terminal isn't great, but I don't particularly like HyDra Search. It's probably just personal bias there, though, because arguably it is a decent search map, but I don't think it's anything particularly spectacular. So I think that OpTic were kind of keen for HyDra to go. Not a good map for them really at all. They've had their problems there. Of course, you know, they lost to FaZe on it pretty famously at the Major in that very important series they played. So wouldn't be surprised if OpTic did want HyDra gone, but then it came down to basically most other teams wanted it to stay. So the decision was between Terminal and Skid Row, and even though Terminal might be a worse map, Skid Row is a map that OpTic don't play, so I'm pretty sure they voted for that to go. But there are still some issues with Terminal, as we can see. But speaking of Shotzzy, and here we are actually on a HyDra Search and Destroy with, you know, TikTok season action. I mean, look at this one. 500,000 views pretty much on Twitter, 6,000 likes. This is one of those, you know, classic TikToksy plays. It's not the type of TikToksy play that you talk about during a CDL match when he might fly around a corner more so than he needs to. But, you know, he knows this guy's coming. He shoots the barrel a little bit, and then the guy goes to defuse the bomb and gets blown up by the barrel. So, you know, quality content, to be fair. But given how high-profile Shotzzy is, of course, being an OpTic, I think the debate around him and his playstyle is probably never going to end. There's been lots of talk about it over the last several years, especially because when he used to play with Kremp and Clay back on that Dallas Empire team in when it was 5v5 back in Modern Warfare 19, there was talk, because Shotzzy back then, it wasn't as widely discussed that Shotzzy was going so rogue, was throwing away his life, and the playstyle was a little bit too much. Now, there's two arguments for this, either because he was pretty much brand new to the league, Kremp and Clay had him on a relatively tight leash, which is true, and Kremp has even talked in recent times at how, you know, he wants to allow Shotzzy to express himself in terms of how well he can play, but he also wants to ensure that Shotzzy isn't over-channeling and overextending and throwing away his life at unnecessary moments. But maybe that playstyle from Shotzzy was just more viable in a 5v5 setting. Not to say Shotzzy hasn't been good in 4v4 games, but you can argue that in Modern Warfare 19 when it was 5v5, having one player that was even too aggressive actually could work quite well just because you had an extra life to play with, as it were, in certain situations. In 4v4, that might potentially become somewhat more, you know, valuable the other way. But Pred's talking about this because, of course, they know the criticism, and he doesn't, you know, mention Shotzzy here specifically, but I think it's quite clear by what he's talking about that he's generalizing around some of the criticism with regard to Shotzzy's playstyle, right? Talking about how Estriel, in this case, goes to make a nice play here on the Terminal and says, look, it's very easy to criticize from afar, especially with the benefit of hindsight, when you can see what happens. If a play happens and the player gets a kill, you say, oh, nice play, nice risk-taking. If they die, you say, oh, this guy is terrible, why did he overextend? And it's all dependent on the outcome, which I think is a good analysis from Pred, but does it tell the whole story?
Wants to do better. That's the first blood. Good news.
Oh my god, Estriel's going rogue. I tipped the confidence, dude. Like, see, like sub players that make these plays, and then people are like, oh my god, like they're so rogue. They just need to calm down and play slow. But like, it's a risk. Every sub does it. But when they do it and they get the kill, everyone's like, oh my god, what a play. But when they die, like 2-3 times trying to do it, then it's like, oh my god, they just need to slow down. Like, people are just so hindsight, dude. That's why I hate it. That's why no one really gives a shit about what people say, except like the players know, like. You know what I'm saying? People are just brain dead, dude. There's literally a reason why. Would you rather like someone sit in a corner, let the time run out, make a play with 20 seconds left because you have to? But then when they're playing too slow, it's like, man, like, we're playing too slow. You got to take a risk somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't win sometimes, because people just love yapping, bro.
So I definitely think Pred makes a fair point with regard to the benefit of hindsight when it comes to, you know, making judgments on the way that certain players play the game. But, you know, look, a certain fan's brain dead or certain players brain dead for giving certain opinions. Not necessarily. Like, sure, certain fans who haven't played the game at the level that Pred and these other guys have played at, their opinions don't carry the same weight. it. But when you've got guys like X, and maybe X does it for impressions, which I think is definitely true in some parts, because, you know, anything anti-OpTic X will definitely try and lean into to some degree. But still, at the end of the day, X is one of the best players to ever play the game, 2-time world champion, top 10 player of all time, wherever you want to put him. He's somewhere in that category. Top 7, top 6 is probably, maybe top 7 is probably where I'd put him for now. And there's other legendary players as well that echo a similar sentiment. I think that at least is worthy of merit, because as Prid says, sure, sometimes you take a risk, sometimes you don't, and that is a debate that needs to be had. It's not like always taking the risk is good, and sometimes it's a bad risk, right? I think this is the point that people make with Shotzzy, that there are good risks to take. There are 60% risks, or there are risks that if you go and fly around this corner and take the chal, it might only work 40% of the time, but if you win the fight, you win the round for sure. If you lose the fight, you still win the round 50% of the time, so it's worth going for, because if you do win the fight, you know, it's a guaranteed dub. So, you know, it's those type of discussions that are often had with Shotzzy, because he does, you know, it's been years really, we're watching Shotzzy throw away his life in certain circumstances that other SMGs that have been, you know, MVPs in recent seasons haven't. Now let's not forget though, Shotzzy was the MVP of the season back in 2020 on Modern Warfare 2019 on that Dallas Empire team. So not to say that Shotzzy can't be incredibly valuable. I think he is more valuable than his numbers suggest. But I think there's no secret that his playstyle compared to some of the other SMGs is criticised, and possibly criticised for more reason than otherwise. But I think we'll see when it comes around to Major 2 qualifiers whether anything has changed there in the way that OpTic are approaching the game. Getting Prid and Shotzzy on the same page has been a big talking point. The game has now changed somewhat. Rio should be a map that, you know, Shotzzy should kind of like, at least theoretically on paper. So we'll see how that translates into reality, and whether there are any differences there to the playstyle in the respawn and the search and destroy modes. Just I thought this was really cool. I don't exactly know when this would be from, this Xbox 360 getting signed. I'm guessing it's an event back in like Black Ops 2 probably, because I mean, look at some of the signatures on this, even replays as it was back then. So many names. I mean, TP, obviously Clay's here, Spacely, Mr. X, Goonjar, so many others. And I thought this is pretty cool. I think this got sold to someone maybe, or maybe it was never sold and they just put it straight up there. Here's Paddy P, for example, Crim6 among others. So yeah, actually, as Noisy Ballas even says, looks to be from UMG Atlanta 2013 after talking to the seller. So yeah, that is pure COD history right there. But very much intrigued your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, Ben does hate Vegas. I actually think I just think they made the change for the wrong person.
Bro,
I actually think if they brought Gio in, maybe brought in another player, like another submachine gun players, a few players they could have gotten. I think this team has a good shot
I hate
at
this
contending.
Franchise because it's everything that is wrong with this era of esports. Like no engagement, no sponsors, no brand building, terrible decisions, dysfunctional culture. They've made it to like one final ever in 5 years and was online. Like they were everything that's wrong about this franchise era of esports that we're in. And I will be so happy when these guys are fucking gone.
Damn.
Dude, you've gone further than just the COD team right now. You're in the management, marketing, communications, PR.
He wants them to fail.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had that much passion here.
I'm just over this shit, bro. I'm just over it.
You know what I mean? They've had close games.
The
I just
best
feel like
team they
they're.
had was last year, and if they had given that team last year resources, gave them a facility, maybe those guys get a couple extra points online. They make it a champion. Who knows?